Good afternoon and welcome to today's lesson. Today we are going to look at dialogue. I am Mrs. Emerentia Boetes and I will be presenting this. This is for the grade 9 English first additional language. So dialogue is part of a longer transactional writing. Now, if you know all your writing pieces, you know you have an essay, which is your creative writing, and then you have transactional writing, so where you have to convey a message. And we get longer transactional writing and then also shorter transactional writing. It's important to know the difference between the two of them. Longer transactional writing then refers to a longer text that you will write, whereas shorter transactional writing will then be a shorter piece, so less words that you write. So dialogue, part of our longer transactional writing. Now, if we look at the word count for grade 9, English first additional language, that will be 140 to 160 words. Now, what this means, you cannot write less than 140 words. So your minimum words, you must have at least 140 words. And then your maximum words, 160 words. So do not exceed your word count. That means you mustn't write more than 160 words. So in that space of time, this is then what you have to practice in class so that when you write your formal assessment, you will be able to write within that word limit for the longer transactional writing. So this word count will include all longer transactional writing, but today we are focusing specifically on dialogue. Now, what does our word count include? So our word count includes the scenario. Scenario means what the dialogue is about, and then stage directions and direct speech. I will give you an example in a moment about that so that you can see exactly what you include in your word count. Now, what does our word count exclude? So our word count excludes names of characters. So on the left-hand side with a colon, you will write the names of the characters and they will be excluded from your word count. It means you do not count them as part of that 140 to 160 words. Let us look at what is a dialogue. It is a conversation between two or more people. So that's in essence what a dialogue is. But remember, for our purpose, when we write, you must always look at the topic. If your topic includes only two people, then you should not add another person because that will have a negative effect on your marks. You must then only write about two people in your dialogue. And then what do the people do? Usually it's two of them and they discuss a specific topic. And again, the topic will be provided. So you should not make up your own speech in the dialogue. You must always look at the topic and then your characters will discuss that specific topic. Then always ensure that the content of the dialogue keeps to the topic. So this is what I said about make sure that that specific topic is covered, not other things. You must keep to your topic. Always stick to the topic. And then something that's very important, this is anyway important for any task that you will ever do, but look for the dialogue. You read all the instructions to ensure that you keep to the topic. So that is important, and make sure that you understand each and every word in that topic. So you analyze your topic before you just start to write. Now I have put up an example of a topic on the screen. This example is a topic that you can expect in a paper. But remember now, you cannot practice one specific topic because topics will vary. So you will never have the same topic in any dialogue. This is why it's important for you to analyze it before you write the dialogue. So in this one, it says you and a friend are discussing whether school holidays should be longer. You think school holidays should be extended, so you think it should be longer, while your friend believes they are already long enough. Write the dialogue that takes place between you and your friend. So these are your instructions. You have your topic, and then you also get the instruction of what you should do. So what do we have? We have two characters. Very important. Please do not bring in a third person because you are only two characters. And then what are you discussing? It is you and it's one of your friends. And remember now, when you write down the names, don't write me, friend, and so forth. You write down your name, for example, Joe and Jane or whatever. So you never write you and friend. Always have names for your characters. And you are going to discuss that whether school holidays should be longer. And then they even tell you that you think that it should be longer and your friend thinks it's long enough. So remember, this is not about your own opinion. This is fictional. So maybe you or someone that believe actually that they are long enough. But for this specific topic and this dialogue, you will then take the other point of view. So we have here, if we just quickly analyze our topic, we have a conversation between two people. Remember to keep to the topic. Do not have more than two people in the conversation. I cannot stress this enough. I see this a lot of time that learners write in another character. Please do not do that. It is not part of your topic. Then you will need a brief scenario, or the context must be given before the speakers start to speak. We'll give you an example of that, but it needs to be there so that people who will read your dialogue will know what you are writing about. Now, in this one, or in a dialogue usually, the tone can be formal or informal. In this specific dialogue, you can see this topic is between you and a friend. So the tone will definitely be informal, not formal. And even though it's informal, you do not use slang words. You know those words that you like so much for some reason. I don't know, grade 9 seem to love gonna and wanna. Those words, please do not use them. They are seen as slang words. And then other words that grade 9s use, like bro, that's also slang. So do not use any slang words, although you can be informal in your dialogue. Now, when we write a formal dialogue, we will use honorifics, that is titles like Mr., Mrs., Doctor, and you won't use any contractions. So you won't say won't or don't. You will say do not and will not. But now for an informal dialogue, so remember again, it depends on your topic. If you have a topic that you have a discussion with a teacher or with a parent or an older person, then it will be formal. But informal, you do not use any honorifics, so no titles, and you may use contractions. So that's only for informal that it counts. So any formal writing, you will never use contractions. You will only use it in informal writing. Let's look at the format of our dialogue. So we don't use inverted commas, and the following aspects of the format must be included. Remember, even though it is a conversation and we are used to that, we use inverted commas, we don't do it in the dialogue because we already know that it's a conversation. So the following aspects of your format must be included. The names of the speakers must appear on the left-hand side of the page. A colon must be the name of each speaker, and a line must be used to indicate each speaker. The questions must be probing and to the point, so please don't start or you just start with your dialogue immediately after the scenario. Then stage directions, tone of voice, actions, etc. must be written in brackets before the spoken words if applicable, but overuse this. So don't use tone of voice and actions a lot. Don't overuse it. You always follow your writing process. So you create a mind map, you write down your ideas, and then you have your rough draft. Very important step to have. You can see here what I've done is just gave you an idea. So you write, for example, there's your scenario. Mpo and Jane is discussing whether school holidays should be extended. When you read that, you hear it's wrong. So you cross it out and you put in or. Mpo and Jane are discussing whether. So do you see, you first write your rough draft, you read it again, and then you will see the mistakes that you've made and you will rectify that. And then we see Mpo colon. It doesn't even feel like we had a break. I am tired. Jane, surprised. What? The holiday was far too long. Now, surprised was spelled wrong, so there we just corrected it. And then Mpo said, I really feel that the holiday should be longer. Now you want to use a synonym for the word longer, and then you use the word extended. So do you see from this that your rough draft is very important, because this will help you to eliminate the mistakes that you've made. And then after the rough draft, now you have your final response. So there's your final response. We can see the scenario first of all. Mpo and Jane are discussing whether school holidays should be extended. Then we see the name of the first character with a colon. And there's a word. You see no inverted commas there. Then you see Jane, colon, and now there's an action, surprised, in brackets, and then she continues with her dialogue. And then again, it is Mpo's turn and Jane and so forth. And so you continue until you've reached your word limit. So here you can see you don't say, hi, how are you? And all those words just to make up some words. You start with your scenario and then you immediately start with a topic to address the topic. The two characters will then speak to each other. And that's part of your final response. If you do it this way, that will ensure that you get the optimal marks that you deserve. Thank you very much for joining us today. I hope that you've learned something, and I hope that you will write wonderful dialogues and enjoy the next